Uganda stands on the brink of a significant shift that threatens the core of its democracy. In a move that could alter the country's future, there are ongoing discussions about denying Ugandans the right to directly vote for their president. Instead, a proposal is being floated within the ruling National Resistance Movement, NRM, to have lawmakers elect the president, thereby consolidating power within a small group of political elites. Critics argue that this would only serve to extend Yoweri Museveni's 38-year hold on power, silencing the voices of millions. Since the inception of the NRM regime in 1986, Ugandans have elected their presidents through universal suffrage, a right enshrined in the country's constitution that allows every adult citizen to vote. This right is now at risk. The ruling party, led by Museveni, is considering proposing a constitutional amendment that would switch Uganda from a presidential to a parliamentary system. If passed, Ugandans would no longer vote directly for their leader. Instead, members of parliament would make that decision. This is not the first time such a drastic amendment has been proposed. The idea was first made public in 2022 by the Transformer Cadres Association of Uganda, an NRM-affiliated group led by Michael Ongwek. The group openly advocated for the amendment, arguing that it would streamline governance and reduce the costs associated with elections. However, many Ugandans see through this facade. The proposal is widely viewed as a strategic move by Museveni to extend his grip on power indefinitely. Museveni, Africa's third longest-serving leader after Cameroon's Paul Biya and Equatorial Guinea's Teodoro Obiang, has already manipulated Uganda's laws to his advantage. In 2018, he removed the presidential age limit from the Constitution, allowing him to run for a sixth term in 2021 at the age of 76. The removal of term limits and age restrictions was seen by many as blatant attempts to ensure that Museveni could rule for life. For a leader who has already overstayed his welcome, switching to a parliamentary system offers a new lifeline. Museveni's advancing age, coupled with his diminishing popularity, means that he can no longer effectively campaign across the country as he once did. By allowing Parliament to choose the president, he avoids facing the electorate directly, a battle he knows he would likely lose without resorting to widespread electoral fraud and intimidation. But why is this move dangerous for Uganda's democracy? To understand this, one must consider the state of Uganda's political landscape. The government, military, police, judiciary, and parliament are all heavily influenced, if not outright controlled, by Museveni and his inner circle. These institutions do not function independently. They dance to the tunes of the NRM. Allowing parliament, dominated by NRM members, to elect the president would cement Museveni's power and effectively render the will of the Ugandan people meaningless. Opposition leaders, such as Bobi Wine, have warned of the dire consequences of this proposal. "We have seen everything change under Museveni," Bobi Wine declares. "When we removed term limits, when we removed the age limit, the only beneficiary was Museveni. Now, with this new proposal, he wants to bypass the voters altogether." Opposition figures like Kizza Besigye have described these maneuvers as a well-orchestrated plan to have Museveni rule for life. This latest push to amend the Constitution and adopt a parliamentary system is no different. It is another chapter in the ongoing story of a leader determined to maintain power at all costs.
But ultimately, this proposal is intended to hand the country into the hands of Museveni's family. And I want to tell you, fellow Ugandans, this is a very, very serious warning. Once you are handed to this family, it becomes Museveni's kingdom forever. You are slaves forever. The last chance you had is to be able to elect your own president. Yes, they rig elections, but to get opportunity to assert your will. It is seen everywhere. Now they want to take away the power from the people to choose their president. This is not a secret anymore. After the 2021 elections, we came out and warned the country that there was a plan to remove presidential elections. Because even if Museveni succeeded in rigging that election, we had completely undressed him. We had completely removed the mask. The world began and continues to view Museveni as the dictator that he is. So he started devising plans to remove presidential elections, and now it's in advanced stages. He was so ashamed when we exposed him, and clearly he cannot afford to go back to elections. Also, we must note that the man is very old and wasted and weak. So he wants to have a shortcut to that. Also, we should know that he wants to install his brutal son, who he knows cannot even win an LC1 election. In 2021, he got an excuse of COVID and stopped us from going around the country. Now he has no other excuse, so he desperately is looking for ways to bring his son to power without an election. And therefore, he's using some people that you are going to know over time to subdue the will of the people. We warned you, because this is how everything has started in the past. Everything starts like a joke. You remember when they took power, they said they were going to be in power for only 4 years. 5 years later, they used parliament to prolong their stay in power by 5 years. Then in 95, we got a constitution. It started as a rumor, as a joke, that they were intending to remove term limits from the constitution. Museveni himself even dismissed it, but eventually it came to pass. And then the age limit, it started like a rumor, and Museveni himself dismissed it as idle talk. Long story short, now we don't have term limits in our constitution. We don't have age limit in our constitution. So today, he's doing the same.
Proponents of the amendment, including Ongwek, argue that it would save the country money and improve governance. They claim that members of parliament are better positioned to choose a leader who can advance Uganda's interests. However, these arguments overlook a critical truth. Uganda's multi-party democracy is still in its infancy. The country under Museveni lacks the political maturity and institutional independence necessary for a parliamentary system to function without being manipulated by those in power. A switch to a parliamentary system is best suited for mature democracies where checks and balances exist, where legislators act independently, and where the rule of law is upheld. Uganda, under Museveni, meets none of these criteria. The reality is that this proposal is not about saving money or improving governance. It's about protecting Museveni's interests and ensuring his continued rule. As we continue, if you find this video useful, spare a second and subscribe to our channel, the JB Mwonge Podcast, to be part of this growing community. Thank you for the support. Uganda has a long history of constitutional manipulations to serve the interests of those in power. In 2005, term limits were removed, allowing Museveni to extend his presidency. In 2018, the age limit was scrapped, further entrenching his leadership. Each of these changes was presented as a move to strengthen Uganda's governance. But in reality, they only served to consolidate power in the hands of one man. Now, with the 2026 elections on the horizon, Museveni's regime is once again looking to rewrite the rules. By proposing to let Parliament elect the president, Museveni aims to avoid the scrutiny of the electorate, sidestepping the dissatisfaction that has grown after decades of unfulfilled promises, rampant corruption, and human rights abuses. As Uganda stands at this crossroads, the decision to alter the constitution in such a fundamental way should not be taken lightly. The voices of ordinary Ugandans must be heard. This is not just about political maneuvering. It's about the future of a nation and the right of its people to choose their leaders. Museveni and his allies may attempt to disguise their intentions under the guise of efficiency and cost saving, but the true motivation is clear: to tighten their grip on power. The proposed amendment to switch to a parliamentary system is not just a legal change. It is a direct assault on Uganda's democracy. It is a calculated move to silence the voices of millions and ensure that the country remains in the hands of those who have ruled it with an iron fist for nearly 4 decades. This proposed constitutional change comes at a time when dissenting voices in Uganda have reached a fever pitch. Inspired by Bobi Wine, a leader who has captured the hearts and minds of Uganda's youth, the call for change has never been louder. Despite numerous attempts by the government to stifle opposition, the energy and determination of young Ugandans have proven to be an unstoppable force. The 2021 elections, which saw Bobi Wine garner massive support, were marred by widespread allegations of vote rigging, intimidation, and violence orchestrated by the regime to maintain its grip on power. The storm of dissent has never settled since then. For many young Ugandans, Bobi Wine represents hope, a symbol of the change they desperately seek after decades of corruption, mismanagement, and repression under Museveni. His message resonates with millions who feel left behind by a government that prioritizes power over people. The youth, hungry for a new dawn, have shown unwavering resolve to fight for their future, even in the face of tear gas, bullets, and arrests. The regime's response has been predictable but brutal. Fearful of losing control, Museveni's government has continued to deploy excessive force against protesters, journalists, and opposition supporters. Young people, who make up the majority of Uganda's population, are viewed as a threat to the status quo, a ticking time bomb that Museveni's regime is desperate to defuse. In a bid to cement its longevity, the Museveni administration is cooking up ways to suppress this growing wave of resistance. The proposed shift to a parliamentary system is just one of several strategies aimed at sidestepping the will of the people. Museveni's fear of Bobi Wine and the youth movement behind him is palpable. It's a fear that drives the regime's relentless attempts to hold on to power by any means necessary. Bobi Wine, born Robert Sentamu, became a beacon of hope for millions. His message is simple but powerful. The time for change is now. He stands not just as a political rival to Museveni, but as a representative of a new generation that refuses to be silenced. Despite facing arrests, torture, and constant harassment, Bobi Wine has remained steadfast, urging Ugandans to stand up against tyranny and fight for their rights. Museveni's regime, on the other hand, is doing everything in its power to secure its hold on the nation. From manipulating electoral processes to proposing amendments that could bypass voters entirely, the goal is clear: to shut down the rising tide of opposition before it becomes an unstoppable force. But the fear driving these actions only highlights the growing influence of Bobi Wine in the youth movement. Museveni knows that he is no longer dealing with a passive population. The youth are awake, aware, and demanding accountability. The political landscape in Uganda is shifting. The young people who make up the backbone of the nation's future are no longer willing to be spectators in the drama of their own lives. They are actors, determined to rewrite Uganda's story. Their desire for change goes beyond politics. It's about reclaiming their country from a regime that has overstayed its welcome and exhausted its mandate. As Museveni and his loyalists scramble to fortify their power, the youth, inspired by Bobi Wine's courage and resilience, are preparing for the fight of their lives. The upcoming constitutional changes are not just about altering how leaders are chosen, they are a direct attack on the democratic aspirations of Uganda's people. The proposed amendments seek to silence the loudest and most vibrant voices of dissent, but they also reveal the regime's deep-seated fear of an empowered citizenry. The people of Uganda have spoken before, and they will speak again, Bobi Wine tells his supporters. His words are a rallying cry for those who refuse to be silenced. As the regime plots to tighten its grip, the people of Uganda are rallying for a future free from oppression. Museveni's fear of Bobi Wine and the youth movement behind him is not just a political concern. It is a recognition of a shifting tide that could change the country's course forever. The regime's fear is not without reason. The youth have shown they are willing to stand up against the old guard, to demand a government that represents them, and to push back against the corruption that has plagued their nation. With Bobi Wine leading the charge, Uganda's young generation is more than a political force. They are the embodiment of a nation's hope, a living challenge to the outdated politics of suppression. Uganda stands at a crossroads. The decisions made today will shape the future of the nation for generations to come. The people must resist any attempt to strip them of their democratic rights, to diminish their voices, or to undermine their collective power. The world is watching as Uganda's youth continue to rise. This is not just a political struggle, it's a battle for the soul of the nation. As the government prepares to push its latest constitutional changes, Ugandans must remain vigilant. The power to choose their leaders must not be stolen away. Bobi Wine and the movement he leads represent more than just a political challenge. They are the face of a new Uganda, a Uganda where power lies not with a few, but with the many. The time for change is now. Stand up, speak out, and let the world know that Uganda's future belongs to its people. The struggle continues, but so does the hope for a better tomorrow. Together, united, the people of Uganda can overcome any obstacle. The fear of the old must make way for the courage of the new. Thank you for tuning in to the JB Mwangi podcast. If you found this video informative and valuable, we'd be grateful if you'd consider subscribing to our channel. This is the official home of the JB Mwangi podcast, where we bring you crucial stories and insights from Uganda and beyond. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's discussion. Please share your perspective in the comments section below. Your voice matters in this ongoing conversation about freedom and justice. If you believe others could benefit from this information, don't hesitate to share this video with your friends and family. By spreading awareness, you're playing a vital role in shining a light on these important issues. Thank you for your support and for being part of our community. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and have a great day.